You know the drill. Cycle it out. Energy. The dogs, they're excited. They got fed. Peek over, you can see the bougainvillea there next to my barbecue. Haven't got to use a barbecue yet, but they said peace and balance. And I wanted to talk about equilibrium and for one, hear the neighbors across the way playing Tohono. It's a Sunday, which people want to call the Sabbath, but we know that the seventh day is Saturday, not the first day. But if you do your reading, you'll see that. Anyway, sorry, I've had sinuses, and I did not a barbecue, but a fire pit, and I think I got some smoke inhalation, which I didn't realize. And body gets sensitive. It's the other dog excited, but I wanted to kind of share that I'm dealing with a transition, right? A release. I think some people would call it depression, but it's not depression. When you feel like you're relinquishing something, right, or a change, people will mistake it, I think, as that, but there could be that. But also you have dark night of the soul, emotional buildup. If you don't release it properly, or live healthily, or overstrive, all this can culminate into, from my experience and a few others over my lifetime supporting people, and how to go about allowing yourself to be supported and not let fear of who you let in. There's always going to be some people you allow them in. It's just the way it is. Like, taking on life by yourself is very difficult. I started one of the books. I don't want to mangle his name. I think it's, let's see here, Ik Nan Han. I hope I said it right, but Heart of the Buddhist Teaching. I've always wanted to read one of the books that have a long tenured monk or Buddha. And I've only gotten through a couple chapters, but I wanted to share what I'm dealing with now, and it could help other people. So I didn't say Guten Tag because it's Guten Nacht. It's getting close to night. I'm going to remember the other good evening means. Not good night, but good evening. But it's a Buenos noches, right? I have to learn a couple others because that's going to get boring to y'all. But this is Jorn, Jerry, Nordic, whatever name you feel you want to identify me with. But I say peace and balance because ultimately that's putting an identity to a name is to me is a human construct. And when you live in this human construct, then you have aspirations and ideas of what you aren't, right? You have limitations. You have, sorry about that. You have limitations or preset confirmations or ideas. And finding yourself is important, right? A job isn't you, right? That's a task to live in this world here. And we want to have one foot in and one foot in freedom and one foot in, I don't want to say slavery, emotional, physical, right? Economical. So I recently have had an experience where, and I, like I said, this is to share so other people can really feel that they can connect. Whether I'm rambling or, my grammar isn't correct, whatever, my commentary. Like I said, this is to be real. And I'm in a posture leaning forward, stressing my neck, because if I'm back here, I'm going to be way back. Maybe I should sit back. I'm back here. But I wrote down a couple things on a paper. It's sitting behind the phone here, so I can have a couple bullets and ideas of what to talk about and not go off too much. I will just start channeling and thinking about things and let the energy flow. But in the book, he talks about if you go to the Buddha and you're suffering, right, or the world's suffering, I will suffer, right? And I think the gist of that is, the message is I don't know if you actually have to suffer to learn, right? It's the most profound way to learn. How many times do our parents tell us, they were teenagers as well, or, a pseudo-parent or a godparent or an older friend that's, a half of a generation older who's been there and said, excuse me, well, I won't hide it. So, been dealing with a little bit of a low vibration because of the change that's happening. I think I've had a release on a lot of attachments that I didn't realize it was there, and acknowledging it. Right? We have to acknowledge it. So, a depression is a form of acknowledging. Well, you got to know you're trying to acknowledge something or release something. But it could be physiological, right? It could be hormones from food or whatever, injuries, age. There's, taking the right steps to get your health looked at, getting hormones checked, or, like I said, this energy medicine that I'm talking about, or Chinese medicine, where you can palpate the body and stimulate things, and maybe not need medication or possibly assistance with medication. I say try to do the alternative route, which was the primary route before Western medicine came to be, and original traditional medicine was more of a biochemist endeavor, right? Mortar and pestle, and you see the caduceus, the two snakes on the thing. That's an old symbology for that. And but if you look at mortar and pestle, you don't see doctors smashing that. The only ones who smash herbs are naturopaths. There might be doctors out there that still do it. They call themselves a doctor, like Dr. Christensen. He does a lot of naturopath out there. He's one of the guys I've saw some of the energy work for energy relief. I recently had where one of the bouts I had, I woke up very early in the morning, and I didn't get to give respect to who's been there supporting me and listening to me. And what's weird is this wasn't about fear of job change or financial. That's always a stressor. But really, anything I thought about when I asked my higher self that first question, right? Really being open about it and asking. Sorry, apologize. I don't want to be getting squinty eyes because it's irritating my sinus cavities, that inflammation. I think it could be the allergens too, being springtime. But, when you ask those questions, those direct questions, and you're completely honest and open with yourself, not an idea of what you think you are, but really feel it, right? And not letting any manipulation happen there. Like, don't think about your job. Don't think about anything. Let the question really resonate and get that first answer, and your higher self will tell you, right? And really listen to that. It's like when a friend tells you something and you get offended, right? Are they, not when they're inebriated, but when there's a legitimate peace between you two or siblings or whatever, and really let them, open up to you, and you can objectify from there. You can discuss it, and reflect on those things. Don't attack, just reflect, right? Say, okay, if that's what you think, but I'll take that in consideration. We have all these other terms out there, gaslighting, and there's agendas. So like I said, there's discernment. But if something's bothering you because you feel like you're outliving another person's life, it probably means you are being motivated by interests that are not yours because you're trying to fit in. or try to be someone you aren't. Just embrace who you are. If you seem to be boring, you're not boring. If you'd rather stay home and read a book, if your mind isn't racing, right? If it's not racing and always thinking, where you got to stay preoccupied, a little bit's good. I mean, you need to have your free time away from stress, but if you're constantly in a state where I would do, I'd keep myself busy all the time. Always project. Oh, this got to get done. This got to get done. Work on the house. Oh, this is going to fall apart. So you're putting yourself in a scarce mindset, right? If you don't get it done, right? If you don't, right? We do that with everything. And that's the whole point is not being like that. So all this came to be is because I held on to a lot of trauma. I lost my mother, lost my father, and there's instances of looking back going, I didn't consider them. I didn't consider myself. And trying to put those biases aside, right? So you can have clarity on what somebody's sending you a message with, whether it's verbal, action, I'm not going to sit here and try to put terminology and referencing perfectly. This is straight, like if we were talking at a fire and I was giving advice or I was sharing what I was experiencing and what I've learned, and I'm still learning. But if you take it in like the Buddha says, this Buddhist says, he says, the Buddha will let you, when they say the Buddha, right? The Buddha is you, right? The Buddha is your in that moment, right? So here the phrase is, I hope I'm on the right page. When we recognize and acknowledge our own suffering, the Buddha, which means the Buddha in us, will look at it. When you look at that, it's saying, when you look at that, you're identifying where that suffering is, right? And that's your learning lesson. Identifying, being honest. If you're not honest, how can anybody help you aside from yourself? If you're lying and presenting that you're not hurting, like I said, you just don't go tell anybody, right? But whether it was a choice at work or at home or a decision made with a partner, you got to be honest, because if you're not honest and you're fear of living you're going to be living a false life anyways. So why not negotiate that, right? And sometimes you got to walk away from a situation. Now, I know there's financial burden in a lot of ways, but if we don't avoid not being false to ourselves, if we don't not, I think that's correct. If we don't avoid this, right? So think about it. When they talk about integrity, don't let ego get involved, but integrity, right? Like being honest with yourself, you're being honest with yourself, you can work on things, right? If you go through life, living an altered idea of yourself, then you're never honest with yourself like that. Identify what it is and become a more whole person, right? You want to be fit at the level you're comfortable with, and don't try to be that other person. They're in a different timeline, they're in a different life, and you try to follow their plan, you're going to crash and burn like I did. I strive too much trying to get these videos out there. I wanted to share, and I thought it was me being a healer, and I could talk about the different modalities of how shamanism, I dabbled in that when I was younger, which I follow some of it, but all the gifts out there by God, that's what shamanism is, to work with nature, work with yourself, and that's all the belief systems are, to work with nature and organics. So that's what it is, right? So identifying, accepting, expediting too much, too fast. Well, it's like overrunning, when you've tried to run really fast and your feet are falling behind and you're taking those wide paddling steps and you'll wind up falling and rolling. It's exactly what it is. You're overspeeding yourself. Amber Wolf in the book Shadow of the Shaman. I read this when I was younger. I don't think I finished reading it. I got a lot of half-finished projects. I got to get out and finish it. But in order to have truth, right, when you do whatever process, right, whether it's candles or just intention and opening up and breathing, um, she says, doing it like ripping off a Band-Aid. It's abrupt and your wounds aren't healed, right? So when you go to open up to receive messages, this is the same thing with if you're trying to be with God, right? Is doing a transition that's slow. As long as you have the intention, that's all that matters. And the growth will happen. Don't force this new life. Let it happen slowly. It's like when you graduate from one year to the next, it takes a year, right? You're in school, it takes a year. That's all false information. Most of this, of the schooling systems. But anyhow, imagine what people were like in educational institutions. You go back 500 years. Oh, people were ignorant, small, and all that, whatever. I don't know. There's information out there that says otherwise. But looking at yourself and reflecting, right, and empowering yourself on a basic level, not with clothes and all this. Sure, if you want to indulge and have nice clothes and whatnot, that's fine. But reflect on yourself and evolve yourself. If you're happy at the level you're at, then I'm more supportive of you than anything. I support anybody. But like I said, this is for people that might be what I'm going through or have gone through, and they're feeling it again. And it's always, you're always resetting yourself with not getting caught up in taking on somebody else's identity or ideas, right? Be yourself. If you want to enjoy some of the ideas out there and do some of the events and all that, but embrace yourself, right? Like I had done a 50% of the days I hadn't done meridians. I just did the thumps, the K24, the kidneys activate. I actually do the thyroid too. I do this, but if you palpate the organs along the rib cage, or your mind's eye, your temples, do something like that. That's still self-love, right? Doing this, working on the yes, piggy. But what it is I just want to reinforce that, allowing yourself to grow, right? Not force it. Let it happen in time. We get in a hurry and our minds create a construct, right? The mind always wants to take over. It's like a like a narcissistic, entity. We have to have control of it. We got to put a formula together, right? And it's good to plan, but when it comes to flowing energy and allowing the body to engage and disengage trauma or develop, like working out, okay? You can go take a lot of things that'll make you grow fast, but most people have a lot of health issues with that, and they're taking a lot of other chemistry to make that happen, or to drop significant weight fast. It's not the way the body works. If it took you 20 years to accumulate weight in a lifestyle, because your body does go through changes and you're less active when you're younger, and so it might take a couple of years, but you should do it in the slow path, the endurance, because that's how the body works. Organically, it's slower. You sit there and try to have all these shortcuts and try a technique that's a cheat, right? Everything's a cheat. So if you have a result from something that's not favorable and you look for a cheat, didn't you already cheat yourself with that unfavorable result? So why not disengage from that, whatever behavior or lifestyle, disengage it. Like reduce how you engage those things, right? It's all a slow transition, and it's going to be more comfortable. If we get in a hurry, how many people, I want this fast. These advertisements on YouTube or TV. Get there in 2 months, get there in 3 months, blah, 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 right? You can have a degree in 2 years, right? For a 5-year degree or 6-year degree or whatever. And you look at the person and they've aged 15 years in 2 years. Look at the presidents. Anytime they get in there, how much they age. Well, they get a retirement after 4 years. Yeah, gray hair and skin looks like a saddlebag. So, yeah, it's a food for thought. I'll get back to putting up my meridians here. Yeah, but I wanted to give thanks to the people like my sister. There was an ex that I even reached out. She's a super healer, and I wanted to give respect to her. Friend Jason, my buddy Brian. Yeah, there's a few my animals here, and some of the teachings, that I've just spoke about, Donna Eaton. All these things have helped me, and I'm still reeling with it. Like I got shook up. I told people I felt like an addict in recovery. So even though here I thought I was pretty good, I asked for a lot of change. And sometimes you got to be careful what you ask for, because doing all what I did prepared me on an energetic level, like I was ready. But guess what happened? Doing a lot of things when I should have been focusing on doing some other things, like go out with some friends, not drinking or anything. I don't want to drink, toxifying the body. But if you're still in that energy if you're still in that frequency, trying to force your way out of it, it can be unhealthy. So slowly allowing your frequency to change when things got boring. Like as you get older, you're like, I don't want to go out and drink. Well, why is that? It's because you change your frequency. You got some wisdom. You realize that it doesn't do anything but make you feel sick. Man, I am itchy. I don't know why. But, allowing yourself to be free, not to force yourself, right? And when you get those urges, right, and you have those addictions, like all these behavioral addictions, right? It's not always a drug, right? It's how the body responds to the drugs, right? That's where the addiction comes from. It can be a person. We can stay in a relationship because we're afraid to be alone, right? That's an addiction, right? Is it being alone? Is it afraid? Are you afraid to be alone? I don't know. You hear different people saying they rather be alone, but were they very solitary in the first place? So everybody's different. The way you're raised, probably past life. Is it the physicality? Is it the interaction? Is it the companionship of when you go out, which would fall under interaction? Me, I like to dote on someone. I like to do things for people, not just myself. Makes me feel good. Is that a anxious attachment? I don't know. Sometimes I feel alone. There's other times I don't. Maybe I don't meditate enough. Maybe not. It's all what we're working on ourselves, right? But you got to question yourself and look at it and go, can you hold strong to that? When you return back to a relationship you didn't want to be in, but you were alone, and you get that loneliness, and do you look at the whole balance of the person and yourself on how you were behaving around them? Was it I felt strong for 2 months and then you didn't? But really, like me, I identified that recently, and talking, I'm looking at it going, wow, I would always stay active and busy, productive, and my friends were like, man, you get a lot of stuff done. But you know what? It was a fear of being idle, right? When I was young, I had a dysfunctional family, so I didn't like to be in front of my father's path, so I'd always leave, right? And my dad would always think I needed to work as a young person. Neighbors again. And I didn't want to cross his path because I felt I would annoy him. And so I learned and manifested avoidance from conflict with him or to disappoint him or any of that. These are traumas that I dealt with, right? I don't hate my father. I love my father. He taught me a lot. But, he carried on trauma from his family, and I've worked on a lot of my own that was, what do they call it? Epigenic, epigenetics, right? And it's energetic, right? It's etheric, right? It's passed on, not just physically. It's manifested in the cells. So you could say it's physical, but it's the energy, the energetic memory. That's why you give blessings, to get rid of the trauma of, if you're eating animals, it's a epigenetic. When animals are bred and then slaughtered, whatever you want to do it. How a person with a depression handles your food and the crops when it's being harvested, and you ingest it. It's like I said, the Indian folks, they hold it like this. A lot of cultures, they hold it like this, and they give thanks. That removes the energetic memory. So you're not ingesting a sick person's energy or an anguished person's energy, because it'll manifest to make you sick. It can. Just like when you're depressed, it makes you sick. I've been sneezing, having allergies. I think this is part of the physical nature, the as above, so below, right? Manifest energetically. Man, I'm almost 26 minutes here, but, think about who you are. Don't burn your brain up about it, but, don't cause grief. But, if you're struggling with something that you don't think is you, because you feel like you're holding a pace that's not healthy, second guess it, right? Talk to someone you trust. I say, don't be afraid to step out to that frontier and become more yourself. Whether it's a job change or not, or activities or personal traits, right? Habits, right? Food you eat. Is it causing you allergies? Is it causing you gut problems, right? A lot of information out there. Just be aware that everybody's trying to sell a product. All I'm saying is think about how to become more yourself, be more connected, right? Whether it's Earth Mother, Father Spirit, Manitou, God, Buddha. Remember, the Buddhas are people that lived with that essence, right? They have that experience and learn from it, and they share like this. I'm not saying I'm Buddha, but I'm going to share what else is there to do. I don't care if I have 15 views, 10. I will put them on shorts, and I don't know. I'll break up some of these. I have some other ones on mindfulness. That's what this was mindfulness. But anyways, it's just food for thought. And like I said, I hope I can, Sonoran sky in the evening, early spring, mid-spring. I wanted to share this with you in the Aries season. This is my season. I'm an Aries, right? I don't think it's still Mars, but I haven't researched lately on what part of the moon is. I think we're coming up on a new moon, but it's good for setting new intentions with the energies. Like I said, don't be afraid to ask yourself questions, and don't think too much. Feel it. A little bit of logic's good, but don't be afraid to make some changes, and be honest with yourself. Be honest with your partner, if you can. If you've been lying all these years, then that's a tough one. If you've been fake, that's hard, because all the development you had of this false perception, it can take that long to relieve it, But change a couple things. Make it feel more you, right? If it's that deep-seated, it could be hard. It'd be like pulling a foundation up off the ground. But there's some people that won't even try to change. They are who they are. Me? I feel I want to make... I want to be more enlightened. I want to be more free-spirited and release more attachments in this construct, this human ideas of what we think we are. Ask yourself this: who are you? I've always asked myself, what am I? Who am I? It's not my job I do. That's just a job. When people say, are you this, are you that? No, that's what I do for work, right? I'm an enlightened person trying to be more enlightened. I'm a person experiencing this life, but not a person, an energy source. This human is the body, right? Maybe on another planet or realm, if that's the way God has it, we'd be another species for that planet and that body. Octurian, Draconian, Lyran. I don't know. Anyways, I hope you all have a good night or day. Gute Nacht. What else? Noches. Dias. Could be any of the days, wherever you see this at on there. But like I said, I hope this helps. You're not the only one who wakes up and felt like they were having a withdrawal, shaking and shivering, and fluids coming out of your nose like a complete release, right? It wasn't just energetically. And there was little bits and pieces of fears about, a job change and, the job I'm going to be at for the rest of my life, and, my car, whatever, right? We all have this. My bills, working on the house, all these things can happen. Friendships, relationships. Remember, work on them, tackle them a little bit at a time. And if you're honest, guess what? Most of the time, it's you're going to be better for it. So know that I go through it, you go through it. Tons of people are going through it. You might find some best friends with sharing information, right? Just be careful. Anyways, y'all have a good night. Peace and balance. And I look forward to hearing from you guys. Let me know if any of my information helped. If I didn't bore you. Good night.